Hi folks, this is Lou, and this time I'm talking about resource management. It's kind of a rant because I see resource management associated with war games, and resource management is not part of a proper war game. Now, keep in mind, to me, a proper war game is one that's about generalship, not war, because war and games are opposites. In war, all's fair, and a lot of great ugly things happen. In games, you try to avoid that. Games are something where the more serious players want to control what happens. In war, there's a terrible lack of control. It's filled with uncertainty, filled with chaos. So, given that war games are about generalship, is resource management part of a war game? No. Resource management is about manufacturing, it might be about policies, it might be about resource gathering, but it's not military. Maneuver, which is the heart of a war game, does not exist most of the time in resource management. Geospatial relationships may be more common, and that's the other part of a war game, maneuver and geospatial relationships. So many computer so-called war games are actually resource management games, such as Hearts of Iron. Why? Because if you do well in the resource management, then your military forces are going to be overwhelming and you'll have no trouble winning the actual war. It's a formality. Now, technically, because long wars are economic, you could say that resource management is part of war. But once again, it's not part of war games because war games are really about generalship. And resource management also is not part of combat, is it? Which is a very common occurrence in war games. So Hearts of Iron and some of these other big, long games that do resource management, even Civilization, the computer game, they're not war games in the sense that we're accustomed to. They're war games only in the economic aspects. And while that is important in a war and may dominate a war, it's not the kind of thing that's much fun in a game. Consider World War II. World War II was an economic war. It was a contest between the Axis, who tried to gain enough economic flexibility and economic resources that they could match the Allies before the Allies' superiority in economic capability overwhelmed the Axis. They failed. They needed to take the Middle East, among other things. And so the Axis lost the war. But you can depict that war as a contest of generalship, even on a grand strategic scale, or you can depict that war economically, and then I think it would be pretty boring. Anyway, thanks for listening.